Happy Earth Day, everyone, or thereabouts close to it as I'm recording this on Earth Day. My name is Suri Crowe, and you're watching the MeidasTouch Network. You know, it's rare that I get to report good news under this regime, but on this Earth Day, under the onslaught of attacks by the Trump administration, I am happy to report that Arkansas Republican Bruce Westerman's bill to gut the Endangered Species Act was pulled from the House floor today. According to the Endangered Species Coalition, 58,000 emails and thousands of calls to representatives in the past few days, the message was clear. Americans support the Endangered Species Act and want wildlife protections to remain. One of the driving forces in pulling this bill off the floor for now, according to one of my expert sources, could be the Trump regime's recent environmental attacks on the Gulf of Mexico. Here's a background on what this group is doing from NPR.
The God Squad is a nickname for a group of agency leaders that have a godlike power to decide whether a species of animals can go extinct. It's a 6-person group of leaders. They're from the EPA, the Army, the Department of Agriculture, and others. They voted to allow the oil and gas industry to be exempt from the requirements of the Endangered Species Act. That means that oil and gas companies can stop taking measures to protect endangered and threatened species in the Gulf of Mexico, which Trump has termed the Gulf of America. One species is more at risk than the others. Rice's whales are one of the most endangered whale species in the world. There are only about 51 left, and all of them live in the Gulf. Scientists say that if even one more of those whales dies within the next few years, it could tip the species towards extinction. The oil industry has harmed these whales before. The 2010 BP Deepwater Horizon oil spill dumped more than 200 million gallons of oil into the Gulf, and that led to the death of about a fifth of the whales. So why did the God Squad remove protections for wildlife? Well, for one, we know that oil and gas groups like Chevron and Occidental have spent more than $8 million over the past few months lobbying the Trump administration about the Endangered Species Act and Rice's whales in particular. We reached out to some of the people that lobbied for that and they didn't respond. But Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth says he called the meeting because of national security.
Bottom line, to be as secure as a nation, we need a steady, affordable supply of our own energy. This is not just about gas prices. It's about our ability to power our military and protect our nation.
Conservation and pro-democracy groups called the national security justification a, quote, manufactured threat and said the meeting was illegal. 2 days after the meeting, a coalition of environmental groups sued Hegseth and the God Squad to stop the exemption from going into effect. They argued that the national security reason violated the law. Asked for comment, the Department of Defense said that energy security helps the U.S. by, quote, enhancing our operational readiness and ability to project power globally. The American Petroleum Institute, a lobbying group for oil and gas, said the industry has a track record of protecting wildlife while developing offshore energy. If the courts don't stop the God Squad's decision, environmental lawyers I spoke with said this could harm manatees, lead to the deaths of tens of thousands of sea turtles, and contribute to the extinction of Rice's whales. If that happens, it would be the first man-made extinction of a great whale species. And it would happen under U.S. watch.
One of those environmental lawyers is Rachel Riley. She is an ocean specialist for the Center for Biological Diversity. Riley helps craft legislation to protect our oceans. We chatted recently about this so-called God Squad. For background, the last time this committee met was 1992 to discuss protections for the northern spotted owl. Now, these meetings typically include biologists, ecologists, and other wildlife experts, and they go on for weeks with all kinds of data input in person. This time, Trump's gang didn't invite one expert, and they met for half an hour over the phone. Here's part of my conversation with Rachel Riley.
So we've been involved since the outset when they first announced that they were convening this God Squad, because as you said, it hasn't been convened since 1992. And this is only the fourth time in history that they have even used this mechanism because it is intended to be sort of a last resort nuclear option for projects to move forward that are so critically important for our national interests that jeopardy to a listed or endangered species is an acceptable sort of byproduct of having that product move forward. And so this meeting of the God Squad, and I think we prefer to call them the Extinction Committee at the Center for Biological
Go
Diversity.
ahead. Let's use that. I mean, it's like annoying to call them the God Squad because they're not God.
I don't want to inflate the egos of these people any more than they already
Neither
are.
do I. Yes. So the Extinction Committee meets and...
So the Extinction Committee meets. In the Endangered Species Act, there is supposed to be a very rigid set of prerequisites that are supposed to be met before this committee can even convene and consider an exemption. And none of those prerequisites were met here. And so the Center for Biological Diversity challenged that at the outset to try and even stop the meeting from happening. Because of the fact that the necessary transparency and all of the steps that are supposed to be taken were not taken. The meeting they allowed it to move forward. As you said, it was a 30-minute pretend debate that they had that was not open to the public, despite the fact that that is one of the mandatory requirements in the Endangered Species Act, that these sort of hearings be open to the public so that they can weigh in. And after 30 minutes, they decided to exempt oil and gas activities in the Gulf of Mexico from having to comply with the Endangered Species Act. And what that means on the water is that there are easy mitigation measures, simple safeguards that now the oil and gas industry, who, by the way, does not need any more handouts from this administration, does not have to comply with. And will not have to comply with for possibly 50 years until, the biological opinion that they have referenced runs out.
Now, in relation to today's removal of Bruce Westerman's bill to gut the Endangered Species Act, Riley tells me she thinks it was a bipartisan group of representatives from Florida, as well as other Republicans, I know, shocker, who refused to join Westerman, largely because of the Trump administration's attacks on Florida's Gulf wildlife with this Extinction Committee stunt.
What caught my eye initially as a reporter was that it would substantially impact the very few number of rice whales. Mm-hmm. And I was not even aware of the rice whales. And you had pointed out that they were only, what's the word I want to use? Like recognized as a species because there were so few of them in 2020. Mm-hmm. And I think there were like 50 of them. So this decision by the Extinction Committee would basically decimate what's left of them. And then it turns out that it's going to also impact the, dolphins, the Ridley sea turtles, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. And then manatees. I mean, the adorable sea potatoes that people flock to Florida, like all of our favorite sea creatures. And they're like, we don't give a flip. We don't care as long as we get more oil I just always think of like Colin Jost's, hilarious, impersonation of Pete Hegseth. They're like, war maxing, more oil maxing. That's just kind of the way I think of it is like, they got on this phone call. They're like, oil maxing, bro. You win, bro. Yes. It's horrifying. So, kind of lay out what that means for those animals that people love. What kind of environmental impacts does this have? And then what can we do about it? And can we stop them?
Yeah. As you touched on, the Rice's whale is in the Gulf of Mexico, and it is endemic to the Gulf of Mexico. It does not migrate anywhere else. Some whales migrate all around the ocean. They go through numerous continents and countries. The Rice's whale lives in the Gulf of Mexico, and it does not have any other options. That's its home. And it's an incredibly dangerous place to call home if you're a Rice's whale, because the Gulf of Mexico is one of the most industrialized oceans on the planet. Not just oil and gas, but shipping and fishing, all of those things can have an impact. The Rice's whale was identified as its own species, as you said, in 2021. And I think that is a big reason why a lot of people have never heard of the Rice's whale. But I also think it's convenient for the oil and gas industry that people don't know about the Rice's whale and that it exists there, right? It's one less thing that they have to contend with in the public eye. And the damage that this could do to the Rice's whale, I can't overstate it. It would be catastrophic. Simple things like slowing down vessels so that you're not hitting the Rice's whale, because they tend to rest near the surface at night. And so they're very susceptible to vessel strikes. And even just 1 or 2 deaths of, these whales, especially if it's a female, could have an absolutely catastrophic effect on the entire species. And this is also a species who, by the way, lost about 20% of its population in the Deepwater Horizon disaster. Yeah. And so they've already felt the effects of big oil and the oil and gas industry in the Gulf of Mexico. And now what we're doing is telling them that they don't have to take any precautions, that they just can run, roughshod through the Gulf of Mexico. And these whales are going to have very, very limited protections, and it's going to be disastrous for their species.
All right. And just on that note, as I was reading that article in the New York Times where people were protesting, I think there was a picture of you and your daughter dressed under, were you guys manatees?
Manatees.
It was so cute. And then, a spokes for the oil, the petroleum industry is like, we take all kinds of measures and protection measures to protect the sea life and the ecosystem in the Gulf. And I'm just like,
do you?
I mean, no, sure you do. Sure you do, Marge. I mean, they don't. I mean, there's like you just mentioned, the Horizon incident was just, I mean, there's so many, God, it's just a nightmare. I mean, and like you said, I mean, this literally, if this goes through, will be the it will be the extinction of the Rice's whale. Not to mention, manatees are extremely fragile, as are I mean, I've been looking at every day almost right now. There's been, another animal named to the endangered or threatened species. So the fact that these guys could do this in a 30-minute conversation. So what steps can be taken, Rachel? Do we, the people, have the ability to stop this from moving forward? Is there some teeth in the courts? What can we do to stop this?
So the courts are definitely going to be the main line of defense. And that process takes a long time. It's never quick to sort of move through the courts. So it's unlikely that that's going to be resolved anytime soon. I think it's important to realize that at the same time that this is happening, we're also dealing with the Trump administration rolling out their 5-year drilling plan in places like the Gulf of Mexico and California and Alaska. We're dealing with the Trump administration attempting to roll back certain parts of the Endangered Species Act and weaken the regulations that are already in place. And even if the courts are the first line of defense for dealing with the Extinction Committee, people can and should reach out to their members of Congress to make sure that they are not allowing any more weakening of our bedrock environmental laws to happen.
What can you tell people to say to their representatives when we pick up the phone and call? Hey, like, what's a quick script that we can say? Because I'll put it on blast and ask people to call.
Please, yeah. People should be fired up and people should be ready to engage. If you call, it can be as simple as just saying, I want to urge you not to support any bill that would weaken our bedrock environmental laws, particularly the Endangered Species Act.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's easy.
I know it feels like Republicans do the most heinous things every single time. And to be honest, they usually do. But every once in a while, we get a little win. So your phone calls and your emails actually do make a difference. I was recently chatting with another wildlife expert on another eco story that I'm working on. And to my surprise, he told me that my super MAGA representative, where I am in CD2, was actually helpful to their cause on occasion. I know, it kind of blew my wig back, but pressure does work. Florida lawmakers know that billions of tourism dollars come into the state because of the gorgeous wildlife there. So if they are stupid enough to let the Trump regime kill everything, they're going to lose those tourism dollars. But we cannot let up because Republicans, by and large, do not care about the environment. they throw it away and trash it like yesterday's, I don't know, news. I don't get it. They're very abusive with our planet. These hunters seem to think that they will have an endless supply of wildlife resources. And the fact is that they don't. They do not. We have to care for what Creator gave us, to use an indigenous phrase, which I think is so beautiful, about the way that the indigenous people treated our land and our planet before colonialists came over and just destroyed everything. We must steward our planet and love her so that she can love us back. I mean, it is just one of my great passions. I wish that stories like this would gain bigger traction. I don't know. They seem to just get sort of buried, and it really baffles me, because without our planet, the air and the water and the wildlife were nothing. And I think that was no better demonstrated for us than the Artemis 2 mission. I mean, just the beauty and the glory of this incredible blue marble. So not to wax too poetic, but Earth just is magical to me. And it is one of my great passions personally and in my journalism efforts to report and to protect her. So anyway, thanks for watching. Like I said, on this day, we do have a little piece of good news for Earth Day. Happy Earth Day today and every day. Remember to stay fierce, and peace to you.
The truth is more important than ever. Check out our new Truth Over Lies collection at store.MeidasTouch.com. All 100% USA union made.